Hello, everyone. My name is Roland Ottley. I am a physician assistant, and I'm also an attorney with the Ottley Law Firm. I'm here today to speak to you about coronavirus and sexual transmission. Uh, late last week, there were a number of publications in the newspapers indicating that coronavirus was found in semen. And this was a very important piece of news for a lot of readers and a lot of news broadcasters out there. They covered this story very intensively, interviewing many healthcare providers because having found coronavirus in semen, they wanted to know if it was possible for coronavirus to be transmitted. Now, this study that reported that coronavirus was found in semen came out of China. It was a study that was published in the Journal of American Medical Association, and it indicated that there were approximately 50 patients, all of which were hospitalized, some of which were recovering, and some of which were being treated for coronavirus infection. Some of the patients were not able to provide semen. These patients had sexual dysfunction, and so semen was not able to be obtained from them. It's interesting to me that they were able to provide semen during a time that they were recovering from such a serious disease. I don't know what they were told, and I would have liked to find out how exactly they went about obtaining the semen from these patients that were recovering from COVID-19. They did obtain their consent, and so after doing so, they harvested the semen from these patients. That was a very interesting part of it. Now, again, I want to say that these studies were not peer-reviewed, meaning that they were not reviewed and analyzed by expert panels so that they could find whatever limitations to the study or anything like that before these studies were published. If I were one of the experts or reviewing it, if I could consider myself an expert, I I would have wanted to know just how they went about obtaining the semen from these patients at that particular time, and what they would have told a patient to convince them to do so. It was that part I found to be very interesting, and so did many people. Now, bottom line on the issue, having found coronavirus in the semen, the authors were not able to say that this is a sexually transmitted disease, and even though the semen was found in even though the virus was found in the semen, they weren't able to tell whether it would be able to be transmitted to someone, to a woman during sexual intercourse at this time. That would require additional studies to make that determination. But in any event, it was quite an interesting piece of news. Now, in terms of women, the science community have not been able to determine that there is coronavirus in vaginal secretions. The Skene's gland, which is a gland that is similar to the prostate in a man, is does not have evidence of secreting fluid with coronavirus in it. Now, when interviewed, many of the physicians that were asked about this question also mentioned about immune privilege. And they also mentioned that even though coronavirus was noted in the semen, other viruses have also have been reported to be in semen. And there are approximately 27 various viruses that have been noted to be in the semen, most notably HIV, Ebola, and Zika virus. And the reason why they believe that the virus could remain in the semen for long periods of time is because of this this phenomenon of immune privilege. Now, what is immune privilege? Immune privilege is where the body's immune system does not lodge a huge inflammatory response in responding to some kind of insult to a particular organ. A good case to show this is the eye. The eyes are one of the organs that has immune privilege. And if there's some infection to the eye, the immune response does not create that aggressive inflammatory response. And if it were to do so, it probably would result in blindness. Many patients every year go through cataract removal, and an implant, which is a foreign body, is placed in the eye so that they can restore their vision. Had the eye tissue did not have immune privilege, the eye implant would probably be attacked, and they would not be able to maintain that good vision that the surgery performed upon them has now provided them. Now, other tissues throughout the body, including the brain, the testicles, the ovaries, the pregnant uterus, also have immune privilege. And as a result of this, the virus and various other viruses can reside in these tissues and be undetected by the immune system. And so as a result of that, it is possible that these tissues can get damaged by viral infections. And one of the things that that providers are presenting or promoting now, after having found coronavirus in the semen, is that young men should be aware of this, and providers should inform them of this, and they should also investigate if they may now have infertility. So all you men out there, even though you may be asymptomatic from coronavirus infection, and you may not feel that you need to protect yourself by wearing masks and social distancing, I'm advising you that that is another consideration that you should make for your family jewels, so that you can promote your genetic makeup throughout the community at some later point in your life, when you settle down and you get married. This is something that you should also consider, because this may be an issue that won't manifest in you having symptoms or anything like that, but yet the damage may still be done to your reproductive organs. So I ask you to please also consider that. If you feel that because of the situation and the circumstances at this time, you don't want to comply with social distancing and washing your hands and being conscientious about touching surfaces and then touching your mouth, nose, or eyes. Again, people who are asymptomatic can spread the virus unbeknownst to them and unbeknownst to people who are in contact with them. So it's very important that we all continue to comply with these precautionary measures so that we could limit the spread of this disease. Now, I would like to say that even though it's been a long time and we've been cooped up in the house, and the economy is what it is, we really still need to make sure that we protect our children from getting infected with this virus. Every day we're learning new things about it. It's hard for providers to keep up with the abundance of information that's coming out from the science community and making sense of all of the studies that are being published so regularly about this. I personally feel that I need to make an effort to inform my community members about the coronavirus so that they can take the necessary precautions, because there's so many conspiracy theories out there about this particular condition, and people just feel that they can't get consistent and reliable information as to what's going on, and so they're pretty much doing whatever they feel like doing, and disregarding the measures that have been able to allow us to flatten the curve and to now stop the tremendous influx of patients coming to the emergency room seeking care. So I want to reach out to the community members again and really emphasize to them that we really need to continue with all of these precautionary measures. Now, I'm sure that people are not thinking much about sex at this time, and those who are, I advise you to please use a condom and not to conceive at this time. The in vitro fertilization clinics are also recommending the same thing. They feel that the antiviral medications and the viral infection itself would cause possible damage to any conceived pregnancy at this time, and for that reason, they're all advising not for women not to get pregnant at this time. I don't know who will really have such an urge to have sexual intercourse during these days, except if you have a regular relationship that's a steady relationship. People should not be promiscuous at this time. It's dangerous, both whether or not there's coronavirus in the semen. Just having that close contact, the breathing and the spread through the airborne infection of the coronavirus is much more increased during that time. So all precautions really need to be made so that one doesn't get infected with this virus. At this time, I would like for anyone who has any questions to ask any questions that they may have. I would greatly appreciate it. I want to thank everyone for listening to this presentation at this time, and I will wait a few more minutes to see if I get any questions right now. Again, one more thing. The same issues that that we have with finding coronavirus in the testicles also exist in the ovaries for the women, and the virus can damage the eggs of the ovaries as well as the sperm in the man, and that damage can result in miscarriage. It can also result in having abnormal delivery of or conception at that time. So these are some of the additional reasons why unprotected sex should be avoided at this time during this pandemic. As much as you may want to do so, you really you really have to consider that aspect of it, as hard as it may be. Now, I know in working with some docs, people may have that serious urge to engage in sexual activity, and that may result in pregnancy, of course. Some docs will, after a particular procedure, will tell their patients to have pelvic rest. And patients, the doctor may have told them not to have any sexual intercourse, but may have written in their discharge papers to have conduct a pelvic rest. And the patients, the women, in my survey, afterwards I will ask some people if they were instructed about that. They said they would probably find out from their partner if they feel fully recovered enough so that they can engage in sex, even though it may not be as long as what may have been instructed by the physician. And they said that they would engage in sex because the women, they said that the doctor said pelvic rest, so they said they will rest their pelvis and you can do whatever work that you wanted to do. And the men, they said, well, they would make sure they read the papers, and if it didn't say anything about not having sex, they would say, well, you can rest and I will do all the work. So I know those people with a high sexual drive will find ways to get around certain limitations and so forth. And I have heard that men have gone through extensive lengths, even though they know that a particular person may have been infected with HIV. They will take all kind of precautions, and they just cannot hold back themselves from getting engaged in that way. And so you really need to consider that there is a drive out there for people to engage, and that may be one of the reasons why this has been such an important piece of information for the news bureaus to put out there, because people are very much interested in knowing about this. So we all have to wait until further studies are done to determine whether coronavirus is actually sexually transmitted. The other component of this, the other part of this, is also whether a pregnant woman could spread it to her developing fetus. The scientists and the physicians at this time are not able to make a clear distinction or a clear answer where that is concerned. Some women, pregnant women who are coronavirus positive, do not transmit it to the baby. They haven't had any deaths related to the mother having coronavirus and transmitting it to the baby, and the baby and then losing the baby. So that's not a clear, established thing at this time. So we'll have to wait for further studies to come out from that particular part of the studying, so we can determine whether that is in fact the case. But again, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And I again ask each and every one of you out there to please continue to social distance, continue to wash your hands on a regular basis, not to touch your mouth, nose, or eyes after touching various surfaces. As time goes by, I am really hoping that people will continue to do so in a very conscientious and deliberate manner, so that they prevent themselves from getting infected with this virus. The things that we are learning about this virus is very, very concerning to the healthcare community. It's actually driving a lot of fear in many healthcare providers, seeing patients come in with this infection and seeing how they are presenting and the things that are happening to them. It's very concerning to them, and they're taking every precaution that they can so that they do not get infected with this virus. And I'm asking all of those in the community to also do the same. This has to become like second nature. It has to be a routine thing that you do conscientiously. And I would ask you to do it subconsciously, and just be so vigilant in making sure that you do everything that you can to prevent yourself from getting infected. We still do not have an effective treatment at this time, and so there is no good treatment and there is no good cure. The antiviral drug remdesivir is looking very promising, but we haven't yet seen large scale results from studies from the treatment and the data to show us that how effective and how safe this antiviral medication is. So in the meantime, we need to do what we can as a community to prevent the spread of this virus. Now, if anyone has any questions, I think I answered one or two of the questions that I was asked, and if anyone else has any other questions, please let me know, and I'll try to answer the question for you. I will continue to review the medical literature and the scientific literature and bring information regarding the studies to the community so that you can understand more about this coronavirus and this pandemic while we're home, and when we actually get out of this lockdown and we go back to work and school and everything else, and at that time people will really have to consider what it is that they're doing and not doing to protect themselves from getting infected and protecting their families and loved ones from getting infected from this virus because of their activities outside of the household. So at this time, I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and I pray that everyone could stay safe, and I thank you again, and may God bless you.